What's going on, people? It's Mr. Door back again with a review show. I hope everyone's fit and well. We're going to talk about yesterday's 1-1 draw at the City ground. Am I disappointing? Not really, but we're going to all talk about yesterday's draw. If you're new to my channel, please hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and comment below, people, how are you feeling about yesterday's game? Right, let's get the panel in. First of all, we've got the man all the way from Australia, David. How you doing, David?
Good morning, 6:30 a.m. Heat wave out here, but always pumped up to talk to you and talk all things Forest. Let's get into it.
Are you glad to see me, Ellie, or just Des?
I'm just pleased to see all of you beautiful people. It's just so good to be. Just think about the gift that Nottingham Forest has given, me personally, in terms of a friendship that I have with people all over the world and how international the Nottingham Forest Football Club is. And so,
David, that's wrong. David, that's a wrong answer. Just say you're happy to see me and Ellie. That's all you meant to say. That's all you meant to
say. Did we all just check out Des fixing his hair 30 seconds ago? It's like we were coming on.
Hey, normally I make it wet before we come on, but
that was my role of today's show, was to make it wet and try to, make it good. So
next up, we've got the legend Ellie. How you doing, Ellie?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm not too bad. Long time no see on this channel.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a while. And last but not least, he's done his makeup. He's got everything. He's done his hair. And yeah, I'm not going to give him no credit to Des. Des, the man. How you doing, Des?
I'm all right, despite all the insults. So we'll crack on, won't we?
What inside? I'm like, panel, have I said a word to him? I've not said nothing bad about Des. Just missed him, that's all. People, let's go about yesterday's game, 1-1. How's everyone feeling about it? Are you happy? Are you sad? And get to tell the panel about yesterday's game. We'll start with you, Dave. Are you happy with the point, or are you disappointed?
I was a little disappointed with the point, and I felt that the initial reaction from the fans was that they were happy for the full-time whistle. And I felt at the end we were actually coming back a fair bit more. I thought, interestingly, watching your matchday blog from yesterday was quite insightful, just in terms of how the fans and how not as pumped up we seemed to be for that match. And it almost was an expectation that we would win and we would just, get past bottom of the table Burnley with the 4-2-3-1. But yeah, I thought we were coming back at the end, and plenty of positives. Things are never as bad as you think after a draw and an outcome when maybe we felt we should have gotten all 3 points.
Ellie, how did you feel about the game?
I think I knew going into Burnley it wasn't going to be as easy as it would seem. Just because they were bottom doesn't mean we should not pay respect. I was disappointed, but I think less because of the result and more because of, I think, the performance. We could have done better. I think that's fair to say. But if we look at where we were, last season, how things were, it actually took us 11 games just to get 6 points. So I think it's quite nice that we're starting to be quite hard on ourselves and think about why aren't we winning all the time? And it's a bit arrogant, and I quite like it. It's a bit exciting that suddenly everyone's got faith in Forest. But yeah, I mean, I took the point by the end of the game. Should have had 3 points, but based on the performance we gave, I think it was actually a fair result.
Last but not least, Des, you ready for your long digest about yesterday's game?
Ultimately, a little bit frustrated, like most people. It was quite a frustrating watch at times, without being too disappointed, like the guys say. I'm not over the top when it comes to Forest. I try and be as pragmatic as I can. And whilst we were expecting a win, most of us, and it was a winnable game, we feel we've moved on from where Burnley were. We were there last year. We've signed better players and moved players around, and I think it is a game that we're definitely looking to win, given our own form as well, and the way we beat Sheffield United as well. We kind of huffed and puffed through that game, and it was almost following a similar path in that sense. And I felt when Hudson-Odoi scored, we might go on and nick it. The momentum, attacking the Trent end, the noise built up. Just mention the crowd. I'm kind of with the guys there. A little bit of complacency crept in that game, and especially the League Cup game. I didn't like the crowd in the League Cup game. It was really quite toxic, and I just think we've got to enjoy this. Last season, I was accused a lot of being a happy clapper and getting behind Cooper and the guy.
We still get called happy clappers. It's nothing new.
Absolutely,
There's nothing wrong with being happy.
Exactly, and we've got to enjoy the ride. And unfortunately, in football, you lose games, you drop points, you draw games. It's all part of the process. And we're going to have our ups and downs. At the start of the season, I thought Forest would be struggling big time. I thought it was going to be a real season of struggle if I'm realistic. Now, I'm really, really confident they're going to push up like most people are towards the middle of the table. So it feels like a little bit of a setback. I thought Forest were good for 30 minutes. I thought we really penned them back in. The front players, the two wingers and Tyro and Gibbs-White were getting on the ball, creating little half chances. And then they just seemed to run out of steam a little bit, didn't they? I think Burnley had a shot after about 30 minutes and it was a good save by Turner. And it seemed to sort of up them a little bit. And then they started to look a bit more confident. They nicked that goal. And then that Hudson-Odoi goal was an absolute worldie, wasn't it? So that gave us something to cheer. But we go to City, with 7 points.
Listen, I keep saying to people we'll win. We'll go to Man City. We're going to win the game. You hear it first. I said it in my previous show.
I think we'll win.
We'll beat Man City. I don't care what anyone says. We're going to beat them.
Yeah, I think the players were more pumped up and thinking about the Man City game. And if you think about a mid-table team, what do mid-table teams do? They lift when they play Manchester City. They often get results, but then they blow it against teams like Burnley bottom. So I think we should be just applauding the fact that our position is now we are a mid-table team.
Just say on the result, the points at Chelsea and the day and the occasion gave us that little bit of security going into this game, wasn't it? We didn't lose. We got another point. If we'd have lost at Chelsea and then we'd have drew against Burnley, it would have been a completely different story. Yep. But one thing that I was looking for us to do at the start of the season was in some shape or form take points on the road just to ease off some of that pressure at home, because we all know what happened at the end of the season. We was really having to win those home games just to give ourselves a fighting chance. And then we picked up 1 or 2 points on the road and it worked out for us. So I think perspective is the key. We beat Chelsea, great performance, and then it just takes that little bit off. If we'd not, we might have been in a different frame of mind today looking back at the game.
I'm just going through the comments before we do the next subject. Mohammed says, "Hi, Dore, happy with the draw. We should be able to win. I do believe now we'll beat Man City." I told you. Even Mohammed said we're going to beat Man City. Thank you, Mohammed. Eve says, "How you doing? Great. Good evening, Mr. Dore, Des, and LA. I hope you're well. Love seeing Des yesterday. I hope you're joking, Eve, before the game. I'm drawing a picture of City going on Champ Bridge from above. Please do, Eve. I'm sorry I didn't see you yesterday, Eve. I will see you the next home game. I think got Brentford. True Red says, please, pleasure, great game. 2 clubs have made very strong connections with VAR. I felt we spot on last night with 2 contradictions. Let me speak to you, LA, about it. The VAR decisions. Their goal. Let's talk about their goal. And people in the chat, do you feel it should have been a goal? Yes or no? I'll get David's decision. LA, do you think it was a goal?
I was sat in A block, right? So the view my dad was next to me. I'm not gonna lie, at the time, didn't notice anything. I kind of thought, oh, Scott McKenna's been done there. I mean, how's that happened? I kind of clocked something wasn't right, but I couldn't see what wasn't right. And my dad next to me is absolutely gone mad. He's like, Ref is a handball. And he was dead set confident. He seemed to be the only one who noticed in the whole of A block. Everyone was looking like, what is going on? And then he was right. And then you watch it back. I mean, lots of people were saying things like, oh, Scott McKenna being done there, he should have been on that. But the way I see it, I'm not being funny. If you let me use my hands in football, I'd be the greatest footballer there ever was. You know what I mean? Like, you can't say, how's he let that happen when he's using his hands? So I think no goal. And my dad also was very confident that it was no goal. And yeah, I'm very glad that it wasn't.
Me too. What you, Dad? Do you think it was a goal or not? Be honest, Des. Be honest.
Yeah, I will. I always will. Before VAR, that's a goal every day of the week. You just get away with that because nobody could see it. And when you slow it right down, there is when you slow it right down to the point they did, there's a movement where he brings his arm across to the ball, and there was, I've watched back some of the punditry afterwards, and they suggest that because McKenna's coming towards him, he has to move his arm. But at the end of the day, for me, the whole thing with handball is, I think because of VAR, the whole thing should be, if it hits your hand, it's handball. Because the whole thing is just getting a bit ridiculous, isn't it? You've got Burnley fans arguing about Tyros. At the other end, I've seen an image today where it looks very similar, and we would have been absolutely fuming at the other end. So it technically, it is handball, by the letter of the law. But I don't think before VAR you would ever get that in a million years. And it's just one of those frustrations, I guess, for the Burnley fans when they've seen that Tyros went to VAR as well. So if there is some sort of hand on the ball, they're going to argue it till they're blue in the teeth, aren't they?
We're talking about a couple of players, people as well. We'll start with Cameron Hudson-Odoi. I watched him in a under-21 game, and I thought it was what signing. But yesterday, David, two things: do you miss Brennan, or is he better than Brennan? And I asked this to Ellie and Des in a minute. What do you think of him?
I think him and Alanga show enormous potential, and I think if you look at the business that the Nottingham Forest have done through the transfer window, 5 years ago you would have said that Alanga and Hudson-Odoi were as good as Brennan, or possibly better. And so now we've managed to sell one of those players for 50 million, and we've managed to get two of them in for half that much. I think Hudson-Odoi certainly worked his way into the game. And so when you see there was the pass that Awonyi played him in the first half, where he kind of side-footed it straight to the keeper, and he certainly got more comfortable as the match went on. But what you really want, and Cooper said this in the press conference from your guys, is Forest last season did not get too many worldly kind of goals where you just sit there and just go, oh, that's a good goal. And so that is, basically Awonyi just passed it to one of our top attacking guys on the outside of the box. He trapped it and then whipped it in, hits the post and in. And so that is what we need, from our attacking guys. So I think there's enormous upside. I think he got better going into the game. And then to go back to your first point in terms of missing Brennan, well, yes, we all miss Brennan. Brennan is going to always be an iconic Forest player. But, good luck to him going to Tottenham. And we want our junior players going on to bigger clubs. Sadly, Tottenham is a bigger club than us at the moment. So we miss Brennan. Certainly makes the Tottenham matches more interesting to watch when you're looking at the highlights. So I guess that's one slight positive.
What about you, Des? Hudson-Odoi, are you excited of him in the Forest shirt?
I am, but with cautious optimism. There's a reason why we've got him. It was worth 70 million a few years ago, and we've got him
75 million to Bayern Munich 2 years ago.
Whatever it was, there's a reason why those numbers were being brandished around, and now we've got him for a certain fee. I believe there's a massive sell-on fee if he does do well. Chelsea will receive a lot of that. So they've put that safety net in. But of course, he's got massive potential. Him and Alanga are really, really quick, exciting players. You saw at the start of the game, that when what they gave us is the chance to win the ball back high up the pitch. And we've not really had that much. We know it's been slow build up, a lack of possession, and hitting teams on the break. But it meant we could start the game on the front foot. And that's what they give us. Having both of them added balance. When Brennan were there, we didn't have the balance on the other side. What it also gives us is options in terms of switching them over, perhaps playing in behind the striker and all sorts of different formation things. When it comes to Brennan, I'm a massive fan. You know how much I love the guy. In an ideal world, we'd have all of them, wouldn't we? We'd have all these players, and we'd have Steve Cooper would have the biggest headache selection because they'd all be firing on all cylinders. So, like Dave says, I was really keen to see Brennan in a Spurs shirt. and I don't think he let anyone down at the weekend. That take.
It felt strange. It felt strange watching him in a Spurs shirt.
It was, but you saw that little bit of quality. I know it was offside, but he pulled that ball down and volleyed it in. And that just shows that he probably won't be out of place there. We've got to remember what he did for us and the impact he's made. I did a bit of a tweet saying him and Cooper met each other at exactly the right time, and they both needed each other. Cooper needed someone like him to fight us in the Premier League, but Johnson needed Cooper to give him that chance to get there as well. So I think they both sort of ran into each other at the right time. At this moment in time, it was the best decision for the club because it freed up a lot of FFP money. The numbers I'm told are more like 120 million now. It sort of balances off the board.
Yeah, because he's a homegrown player. That's how it's different between.
I don't get the technicalities of it, but again, we've got to remember, Brennan, and I had argument after argument of people taking him for granted. Let's enjoy what he did. Let's enjoy these new players. Let's not get carried away as well. I was excited about Elanga, and don't get me wrong, I'm excited about Hudson Odoi, but it is one goal at the moment, one in a game that wasn't doing much. But the more one goal he scores like that, and he impacts the result, the more it means to Forest, and it's become a successful signing.
I want to talk about other players as well, because when we saw the team, and this is through Ellie, was you happy with the team? Because I saw a lot of murmurs about, again, Scott McKenna and Joe Worrall together, but they played well against Chelsea. Was you happy with the back line, Ellie?
No, but not for the same reasons I think other people were unhappy. I think my view is if players have a good game, you reward them and you put them back in the side. I don't understand how a player can have a fantastic game and then you don't play them in the next game. I understand that there's tactics, formations, maybe, a home game, you want to be more attacking. And I understand that. And I can see the logic. But for me, when players have good games, you put them in for the next one. So I was happy with Worrall and McKenna. And I think that's another player. He's class. I love his attitude already. But the player I really perhaps was unhappy to see, and it's not off. I'll say it in a nice way possible. Was Montiel.
Tell it.
Montiel. I think I saw that. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. That doesn't mean to say he's struggling, and I think he's someone that can come off the game. Pardon?
And Serge was injured.
Serge was injured.
Serge was injured. So are you playing Nico instead, Ellie?
A lot of people would disagree with me on this, but of our options we have, he would be my last pick as it stands. I know he's a World Cup winner, and I know people are going to disagree with me on that, but we saw the game, and unfortunately for him, I have faith in him. He'll come on form, I'm sure. It was bad, bless him. Yeah. I don't like saying mean things about our own players because I think that's the wrong thing to do, but he didn't have a good game, and that's to say the very least. And I'd rather see Williams or eventually we brought Tavares on, and I was a bit worried about him, if I'm honest, prior to that game, and he looked all right. And then like I've already mentioned, he's looking brilliant. I have a lot of faith in him. I think he's going to grow in confidence. His attitude's all right. But I wasn't happy about seeing Montiel start. I think when he's come off the bench, he's been average at best. And I think he shouldn't be rewarded for that. And I know people disagree with me, but I think his performance was poor, and he'll know that, and he'll work on that. And I'm sure there's a great player there. It's just not there yet. And so he has no right to be starting at this moment. And the other thing I was not happy about was Yatesy not starting.
I know, I was cheesed off with that, to be fair. But
he doesn't speak French. He needs to learn the national language of the Nottingham Forest football team. What are you talking about? He needs to.
Ellie, why? For the reason why?
Because my feeling is, as I mentioned earlier, Yatesy and Worrall had Worrall started obviously, but Yatesy also had a phenomenal game at Chelsea. Fantastic performance. He had joint most recoveries as Worrall. He was brilliant, incredible. And like I say, I don't understand from the perspective of I can see the logic again, but I disagree with it. Good performance should be rewarded with starting lineup. And I understand that we have the likes of Sangare, which is really cool. And we want to go for a more attacking at home against Burnley. I get that. But at the same time, I think Yatesy, I love the man to bits in terms of how he plays on the pitch. I love the way that he allows other players to play. He breaks up the play. He's so annoying to face. And that's why I end up getting clocked and, down to 10 men. And I just love him. And I think he's been described in The Athletic as a good pro, which we're lucky to have 2 of. And I just really would have liked to see him start because he had such a great performance. And that should be rewarded in my eyes. I think it doesn't send out the right message to not start him. But other than that, I mean, let's not pretend like we had a bad starting lineup. They're just my 2 things that I wasn't particularly pleased about. But, we've got all these options. Like you say, 2 years ago, if we've been naming these players and going, oh, Yates was on the bench because we have, the likes of Sangare and there's World Cup winner Montiel right back and you're not happy. That's crazy. That's crazy. I'm sat here saying I'm not happy about World Cup winner starting, but there's positive. They're the only things that I was unhappy about, but I can understand why Cooper did it. It's not like I think he's a crazy man. I just disagree with the logic to get there.
People in the I don't know if you know, 2 years. It was 2 years today. I was on stream with Des. I was on stream with Des, and I think it was after the Middlesbrough game. And how miserable was we, Des, from the Middlesbrough game? Very miserable. But now we're talking about we've got World Cup players, we've got Sangare, and we've got.
You know what, Door? I agree with a lot of what Ellie says there. Of course, I do my little preview, and I expected not many changes from the Chelsea team.
Yeah. I
expected some of those new signings to be on the bench, and I can understand why they were straight in. I was pleased to see them straight in, but I was a little bit disappointed that Yates weren't in. Him and Worrell were absolutely phenomenal. And let's face it, when Yates has come on in recent weeks, he's made a difference. And even the Burnley game at home, I know everybody went mad because we got beat and it was deemed a negative performance. But him and Wood took the game to the defenders. And that's what fans are asking for. The biggest criticism has been defending. Yates is up in the face, right up in the face in that game. In games like Chelsea, he was in there battling, I got it to some degree after half an hour because Mangala and Sangare were really confident on the ball.
They looked better. I
thought that first half an hour was Mangala's best game for Forest till that point because
Sangare didn't look any good once Mangala went off. It's like, well, firstly, Des, are you having a dance party there with that lighting? What's going on? But I thought Sangare looked better when he was on with Mangala. And whilst I understand that, the Forest faithful, we like Ryan Yates, and he did completely get that guy sent off. You got to be playing Mangala. He's a Belgium international, and they looked a hell of a lot stronger. But back to the point on Montiel. I actually thought Montiel was looking okay until he got the yellow card. And then that was actually a telling moment for him. And you could tell that he was super pumped up. Like, it was very amusing when you watch him make that massive run to take the throw in and they're lobbing up McKenna and Worrell. And then he tries to do the long throw in and then it goes absolutely nowhere. Like, he was clearly amped up for that match. And I think once he took the yellow card, he was worried about our debut home match kind of getting sent off, which is obviously a worry. And I think that was the right thing to do to take him off. But in the first 30 minutes, especially from maybe the 5th minute to the 30th, I thought Forest were actually looking stronger initially. And I thought Montiel I think he's got a bit of Ren and Lottie in it. You wait and see. I think he will become the premier.
Before Des said something, I remember, it's all right. I remember Des, what game was it? Leicester away. Des actually ripped into him to shreds, Lottie. And Lottie, I'm happy afterwards. Lottie played well. So I know first game.
Montiel's going to come good.
Yeah, but why?
He didn't, I agree with Ellie what he's saying. He wasn't great, but after the yellow card, he done shreds. Because if you look at it, the Burnley left winger, he was very good. He was very good, if I'm honest.
He was fast,
yeah.
and he was scared of pushing on, because when he was pushing on, it looked like him and Alanga were starting to get a bit of vibe and energy. So they just need to get on the training pitch and play a lot more together, and I think they will certainly improve.
Oh,
So
yeah,
I'm not worried about Montiel.
But I just don't think he should have started, because I completely agree with you that there's a player in there, but to start him.
But who plays?
Who plays at LA? That's the question. Who plays?
Anyone else? I mean, I can
Who?
see why
LA.
But Nico can't even make the bench.
Nuno Tavares wasn't started because he came on. It was a bit ropey, but when he did come on, I actually think he played pretty well. And I think doing what we did. Maybe it's just because I have far too little faith in Montiel based on his performances, but he's
I can't wait, Ellie, for you to watch
now.
Montiel bang in some goal from the sideline and you just be absolutely
I'm just
cheering.
saying to start him was rogue, in my opinion. He's had the chance to play. Come on, been crap. Why start him? I
People
think.
what do you think about? Do you
I'm
think?
not saying there isn't, but don't start him yet.
People in comments, what do you think? Do you agree with him? Do you think? As I said, I don't think. I thought it was all right, but the early yellow card, he got destroyed. If I'm honest, but then
right. I want to come in now because Dore threw me under the bus there on Ren and Loddy.
He did.
What I was actually so mad about in that Leicester game was both him and Williams. I felt would give up, not their ability. I felt they'd give up in that game. And as the season progressed, they put that right, and they both sort of established themselves in the team. But I felt the team had given up that day, and that's the only time I lose my sort of rag with the team. I watch people at the moment losing the rag when it don't work, but it's because I felt they give up. And just on Dave's point about Mangala, I'm not his biggest fan, but yesterday, like I say, I felt because Sangara was in there, because Mangala was in there, there was a lot more trust from the defence to play it into them, for them to hold the ball. There was a lot more confident and brave. They were brave on the football, which we haven't been in the Premier League. It's been like a hot potato, and you know how many times I've bemoaned the amount of times we gave the ball away. But what it felt like was Worrell was prepared to play it into midfield. McKenna was prepared. It'd go back, it'd come again, it'd do this. And I felt they really hit it off. So it kind of dismissed everything I thought about Yates before the game. But then as that game wore on, it made sense to introduce Yates because, like I say, I felt they both ran out of steam. Just a point on Montiel, again, it's a little bit early, but sometimes you see a player and you just kind of know. And you build that opinion, and that's why we all love football, and this is why we talk about it. And again, I'm inclined to agree with Ellie. I just think from what we've seen so far in a couple of substitute appearances, it just doesn't look quite ready. You can say the same about Sangare. He looked a mile off the pace, but we're not here to absolutely rip players to shreds from day one. It's just where we're at. So like yesterday, yes, it made sense to put Sangare in, and the fact that he's been playing, his fitness, he should be on top of his game. We've seen him in pre-season. But you have to give them a bit of time as well, don't you? You have to be realistic enough to give them a bit of time to bed in. And if that was the Man City game first and then Burnley, you might have seen a completely different sort of result last night.
Should they have taken Sangare off, Des?
Pardon?
Should they have taken Sangare off?
I believe so at a point.
I think they should have. Because he gave the ball away so many times, didn't he? He had the step over one, and then there was the one where he played it out to the right. Like he just seemed like he lost it at the end. I thought, Ellie, you're kind of laughing at it. What do you think?
No, I agree 100%. But he started well. I mean, if I'm honest, I didn't notice how well he had done in the first half until I looked back at the stats, and he got like the most tackles, 3 interceptions, all these stats. But then his pass succession rate wasn't the greatest, and he, like you say, he did kind of fall off.
I think his stats killed it at the end. I think his stats changed towards
very quickly. Bless him. But the fact that there was promise at the beginning shows there's a player there, and we all know there's a player there. But he's brilliant.
He also he jumped in front of Taiwo Awoniyi on that corner in the first half, where Morgan Gibbs-White did okay corner, I guess,
He
where
should
it
have
tipped over.
definitely scored that.
Well, no, he shouldn't have scored that, Des, because Sangare got in his way, and so Taiwo was unsighted. So you think
No, I'm
that's
saying
one of those ones where you
Sangare.
think, hey,
Sangare should have definitely scored that. If having gone for it,
well, if you're going for it, you've got to get it. Otherwise, Taiwo's. But yeah, he kind of jumps in the way, and then you're like, oh, why didn't Taiwo do better with that? And Taiwo was unsighted. So,
there's half an hour gone. So please hit the like button if you can, subscribe if you're new, and if you want to do a super chat towards the channel, please do. There's a question for you, Des, and Des loves his boy, but this is from Ricky. Gibbs-White needs to step up and start to show last season's form. What do you think of his performance, Des? More Gibbs-White. People in the chat as well. What do you think about his performance?
I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Do you know, genuinely, I don't think there's anything wrong. When Forest are ticking, you know, Morgan Gibbs-White's the centre of everything. He's not. Where is he not performed? That's what I'd ask. You know, at Chelsea we concede a lot of the ball. At Old Trafford we concede a lot of the ball. At Arsenal we concede a lot of the ball. You know, so and he didn't play at Burnley in the League Cup. So when he gets on the ball in the Sheffield United and Burnley game, things start to happen. It's 2 games at home. What are we questioning? You know, we've got 4 points from those 2 games. So I think people need to be. I think this was the problem with Johnson, wasn't it? Everybody expected every week Brennan Johnson to be the match winner like he was in the Championship. If you look around teams in the Premier League, I don't know, an Arsenal, for example, 1 week Odegaard will win it. The next week Saka will win you the game. The next week Martinelli wins you the game. You know, they don't. Whilst they're good and they're consistently good, that's why they're right up at the top. It's not necessarily the same match winner week in, week out.
But he's not informed, Ed. He's not playing as well. And when Morgan gets the ball, like 6 months ago when Morgan got the ball, it was stand on your feet stuff. And you're like, he's our most expensive player ever. And so there is a level of expectation, which is perhaps not unrealistic. And he's also giving it away. And so I can understand, you know, when you're in attacking positions, you give it away. But maybe like the flicks and things, maybe I've seen enough of those.
Yeah, but that's what things happen on a football pitch, isn't it? And sometimes, I'm not saying it's all great and that he has given the ball away. The Sheffield United game, he gave the ball away and it cost us. But that's what being a top player is, isn't it? If he's playing in a team of Arsenal's, he gets away with a lot of that. Do you know?
Maybe. Who plays in his position if he gets dropped, Des?
No one, because he doesn't get
no one.
Is that a problem?
A little bit.
I don't think so. I don't think it's a problem because if you watch his work rate, yes, he does give the ball away. He gives the ball away a lot because he tries things, he does different things, and he doesn't always have the best game. But if you watch his work rate, he works so hard to get back. You know, he tracks back in. He does a lot of running and a lot of movement on the football pitch.
Should have been closer to the ball on the goal that we let in, Des. If you go back and watch it and you notice, like, I guess the low block football and the playing with the deeper guys. You can't
David, don't say that. David, don't say the low block. I hate that bloody word. People in the comments, do not say that word. I hate it.
And is it?
Potentially, but do you drop someone like Morgan Gibbs-White because of the goals you concede, or do you have him in the team for the goals he can potentially give you? There's
you don't drop. I get it. He's just not quite in form.
I totally agree, Dave. I totally agree. He's not quite at his peak, but we're talking about 2 games at home where we've not played particularly well. He's not the only one, you know. So to pull him out and say, "Oh, this guy's not really performing," it's not really right, is it? Because who else is performing? If you work out Taiwo's performing. The rest of them, you could say, well, they've been sketchy. They've done this. They've done that. They've done that. And again, I think we're a bit too easy sometimes to have a go at our better players. When some of these guys, like Mangala, who doesn't do very much, or Montiel, kind of get away scot-free. You know,
I just hammered Montiel for 15 minutes.
What are you talking about? Montiel get away free earlier.
He's going to be going back to Argentina tomorrow.
Montiel, I have faith in you. Just not that game. That wasn't your best game, okay? But I
we believe in all of
where you're coming from, Des. I think I'm half Des, half David with this. In that, I think we all agree start Morgan Gibbs-White regardless because he is our most creative player, and like Dave rightly said, there's no one to replace him. But if we're to say that he's on form by his standards, because it is a special standard, I'm not saying his top performance every game, but by Morgan Gibbs-White standards, because he is a special man.
Ellie, let me see something, Ellie, before you do it. Right, because we all know Morgan Gibbs-White is we want him there, but do you think he's got less pressure from last season? Because like we've got Hudson-Odoi, we've got Alanga, and so he feels like it's more or less pressure on him. And this is why he didn't play great yesterday, but I still feel there's more from him. If you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he knows there's more from it. We're not saying he's playing bad, but he's not on form. It was exactly the same at the beginning of last season. Obviously, he's gone up where he was so creative and his work rate, no one can question that. He's fantastic. It's just he'll give the ball away cheaper than he needs to sometimes, and it's too often than it should be for a player like Morgan Gibbs-White. And he knows what he's capable of, but it's like you say, start him every game because after a few games he'll sort that out. And that's what happened last season. I said the exact same thing at the beginning of last season. He's given the ball away quite cheaply, more times than he should, but give this man the ball, keep letting him do it, because then he'll sort that out after a few games, because what he's got is something so incredibly special and we don't have anyone else like him.
But just one more point on him, and to back what Ellie says up, he started the season like this because he was working with a new set of players last season. Yeah. He forged that when we had a purple patch in the middle of the season and we went on that run of home games. He forged that relationship with Brennan, and he was the one assisting Brennan, linking well with Brennan, working off each other. Looked amazing. The Leicester game at home was standout. But then Brennan come out the team and everyone was, Morgan this, Morgan that again. And then Taiwo comes in and he's in the team and he starts working with him. And at the end of the season, we knew how to score a goal. It was Morgan Gibbs-White, Taiwo, goal. Yes, Taiwo's still there, but you've got new players and different formations. Yesterday was a brand new formation again. So it's all part of the gelling process. This is why people laughed at us for 30 signings and 7 more and whatever comes, is because they don't think you can gel them together. But we have got a manager and a player in there that works and builds up these relationships quicker than the rest of the football world is expected to. So I think we're being a little bit hypercritical here on any individual who's not playing well at the moment, not just Morgan. Taiwo's been brilliant, player of the season.
Next.
But we just got to realise that it's the start of the season. We've played 3 games away where we've barely touched the football, and we've done all right. We've come away from them games and gone, we'll take that to some degree. We don't want to lose.
We are on a review show, Des, where we talk about a Nottingham Forest match and review how the players did. So I don't think it's unreasonable for us to talk about the performance of possibly our most expensive and star player, and then perhaps want him to play a little bit better, no?
Yeah, but that's exactly what I'm saying. But we're trying to get to the crux of why he might be not quite at this top level yet. We're reviewing.
I think in the new, you're right, Des, in the new system, I think he doesn't need to do the flicks as much because he's no longer the 3rd or 2nd most forward player. He's the 4th most forward player. And so therefore it just comes with a slightly different responsibility, even though playing in a more attacking lineup in terms of giving the ball away quite so cheaply. If you're on the outside of the box and you're trying to beat a player, I can understand you're losing the ball, but some of the times and the flicks and things are a little frustrating for mine. But we do love Morgan Gibbs-White,
You don't live, Dave. You don't live in more than Des does.
It was absolutely frustrating at Arsenal, when he gave that ball away and we conceded that goal. There's no one more than me pulling my hair out of that, thinking,
Des ain't got no hair. Des ain't got no. You didn't have no hair, Des. There's something about your hair.
So I thought we was reviewing football matches.
Carry on, Des. Carry on, Des.
I've lost my train of thought now.
Oh, Des. Taiwan. Let me ask you, Ellie. He's not good for this season, but he didn't do much last night, as I feel. But what's your thoughts on him yesterday?
I feel like Tyrone Wanyu's hasn't done much is an assist, which is pretty good, but in my book.
Because he has that good record of scoring goals, and I know he got the assist. And I said to someone this morning about he got the assist, but he scored goals. I think he didn't score. What game was it? What did he play for that? Chelsea. Like he played well against Chelsea.
He also got the assist versus Chelsea.
But they're still moaning about it. I was arguing with someone this morning about, he got the assist. What's your problem? But everyone just assumes he's going to score goal after goal after goal after goal. But what was your thoughts on it yesterday?
I think he was good. He was Tyrone Wanyu. I think he's a player that we've become so accustomed to him just scoring. Even if we're pretty not good, we're having a bad game, we'll just put one in the back of the net and we're like, oh, thanks, Taiwo. And when he doesn't score, the fact that we even talk about, oh, he didn't score on bet, like, what do you mean he did? It's insane. It's so cool. Like, it's brilliant. The fact that we have a player like that we can just be like, oh, what do you mean he didn't score? It's like, no, that's way too much for a comparison. I was going to say he's like our Forest Haaland, that we just expect goals every game, but that's a bit too much. But he still played well. He wasn't like, he didn't score the Callum Hudson-Odoi worldie, but he did assist, and I think no goal.
LA Wi-Fi is cracking up.
Without an assist, that's such a stupid thing to say, but it's true. And I feel like you can't hear me. Okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me again?
You kind of froze for a second.
Okay.
Just on Taiwo, I think Taiwo looks. Oh, yep. I'll keep going, Ellie.
Oh, no, Taiwo is great. Was the concluding statement.
He's a very handsome man. We love Taiwo. I think he just has an opportunity in the matches where we're playing against the top six, and we're obviously defending a lot more. I won't say your favorite word or expression, Dor. I think that gives him an opportunity to shine a little bit more. I won't say it. But he certainly looks, when he's breaking and he just seems to be more of the only attacking outlet, so you certainly notice him more. Whereas when we're playing against the Burnleys and the Sheffield Uniteds, he doesn't, because we have other attacking outlets and it's not just the Taiwo show, he just doesn't appear to look as strong. So I would say Taiwo against the top teams in the away matches is an absolute must start. But I don't think we lose as much if we play one of the other two strikers. And we will talk about Chris Wood, won't we, at some point, Pendor?
Ooh, dude. I was straight. I thought we should have brought him on earlier on. I thought we should have. Oh,
yeah. Chris Wood's a gun. Like, if Aina puts the ball in front of Chris Wood in exactly the spot that he should, Chris Wood scores.
Yeah.
And then it's 2-1. And then we've got two Chris Wood late goals. And then, Chris Wood.
David, do you feel like, people in the comments, do you feel that I said at the match, Cooper should have brought him on earlier?
Yes.
Do you feel the same?
Definite. Chris Wood's like, he's found our spot in the team. He comes on with 15, 20 minutes to go and then just offers a little bit of powerhouse energy and like he legitimately looks like he could score. And I'm excited when Chris Wood gets on. I know he cops a lot of flack and maybe because I'm Australian and he's New Zealand and he's just across the ditch, but David, I reckon he's great.
Dave, you're right. Hear it first. He'll come on the bench against Man City and he'll score the winner. 1-0 Forest. And I say it first, yeah? People clip this up. 1-0 Forest, Chris Wood. Des, why you do this, Des? Come on, why are you doing this, Des?
Well, when you were talking about Taiwo, because if anybody's questioning anything he's done this season, they need the Reds testing. The guy
someone's point about it. I'm like, what?
He's been brilliant. He's been absolutely brilliant in every game. Do you know the work he puts in and the terrorising the defence? The Premier League defenders are running scared of him. Rafael Varane couldn't cope after 45 minutes. You know, he ditched out. Taiwo's been brilliant. Taiwo is I questioned him right until the end of last season. He doesn't appear to hit the ball clean and he appears a bit clumsy. But I think he's been coached within an inch of his life. He's now making runs in the right areas. He's scoring goals. He's creating assists. So what if he didn't score for two games? Look back when we had Keenan Davis, he scored 4 goals and we all thought the world of him, because he was impacting the rest of the team. And that's what Tyro is doing. Why Hudson-Odoi and Elanga might get more time on the ball is because Tyro is occupying defenders. Hopefully, the more he holds the ball up, Gibbs-White comes into the game more on the edge of the box, and that kind of thing. He starts repaying the favour the other way. Just linking that to Chris Ward, I totally agree as well. Chris Ward, for all his faults and as bad as he looked a completely different player again this season because I think he's had that time to gel. Let's not forget that point. He's had that time to gel and fit into what's expected of him. He was injured at times last season and he looks a lot, without looking like he's ever going to run 100 metres in 10 seconds, he looks a lot fitter and sharper than he did at the back end of last season. So nobody's disappointed now when he comes onto the pitch because he gives us a similar but slightly different option to Tyro. So it's all promising. It's all good at that end of the pitch, which last season it wasn't, was it? It was really sort of, it gets there, it comes back, and it's up and back, and it's like a basketball game. And now we've got players who can actually do something. But Tyro, you asked me why I was shaking my head. If anybody anywhere is questioning his impact this season, they need their head testing because he's been absolutely out of this world. And my mate said yesterday, he mentioned the Chelsea link on deadline day and raised his eyes. And I said, if he keeps scoring goals, he's going to be linked with Barcelona.
Yeah.
If he scores 15 in 15, you start getting linked with the ridiculous moves. And this guy's starting. I'm not saying he's there. He's starting to look like the real deal.
He is the real deal.
Oh, he is the real deal.
He is a real deal.
He's the real deal.
But let's not get carried away on players.
Oh, no. It's a review show, Des. That's what we do. I thought we were no chance against Manchester City, and then I come on this vlog, and now I'm convinced we're winning 1-0 by Chris Wood goal.
I think for the last 10 minutes, we're going to talk about, like I said, it's nearly 2 years that Steve Cooper has been at Nottingham Forest. So we're going to talk about that. So people in the comments, who was your man of the match yesterday, and what was your player team rating? Start with you, LA. Who was your man of the match and team rating?
I think for me, you score a worldie like that, I kind of have to give you man of the match. He played decently anyway. He came straight to team, fitting quite nicely. I think he did a decent job. But I think, as some comments are saying, Turner played well as well. He did all right. I think I've been a bit worried about him in previous games. Not significantly, just minor things. I think he did a good job. But for me, you can't score a worldie like that and me not give you man of the match because that was outrageous. So, Callum Hudson-Odoi.
What's your rating out of 10?
Oh, yeah. Ooh. I think I'm going to go with a 6. Not high, but the fact that we're drawing with a low rating just shows how much we've got. I think that's not me being negative. It's me having faith in Forest to do more.
David, who's your man of the match and rating?
In terms of a man of the match, the point Ellie made on the worldly goal from Hudson-Odoi, I would say the Turner save was a worldly save, and I think that was going in, and a lot of keepers don't save that. So I will say Turner was the man of the match. I thought he improved his distribution as well. And unlucky to let in the goal. And then in terms of the team performance, we'll give it a 5, just in the middle of the bell curve. I didn't think we were brilliant. We dropped points against one of the bottom teams, and so we should be better.
Yeah, but Dave, let me disagree with you though. Let me disagree with you because this time last season, right? Can you remember we lost to Bournemouth and we lost to Fulham? But now look how much we've improved now this season. Just saying. Yeah,
exactly. So before we lost to teams when we were a cellar dweller team, and now we're a mid-table team, and we're sitting there dropping points against Burnley. He's getting excited for Man City. I'm convinced half the players and Steve Cooper were maybe looking forward, 1 week to the Man City game, and maybe just the eyes were off the prize a little bit.
Fair enough. Des, man of the match.
I thought the man of the match, and I get both the guys' points, but I'd go for someone different. And again, that makes for great debate. Aina was man of the match for me.
Yes, I liked him.
He played very well in two positions. You know, he defended extremely well. He got forward when we needed him to support both wingers. You know, he was up there. What I will say, a shout out for Turner, because I don't get this. I don't get why people think he's a bit ropey. You know, and I've heard it.
I like him. He's fast me there. Quick.
Turner, you know, we signed Dean Henderson, and this time last year, those games you're talking about, Bournemouth, Fulham, Henderson was letting in shots from distance. There was something like 7 in 7 games. Yeah. I don't think Turner gets beat from 30 yards very often, you know, because he's made some really good saves at big times. The Man U game, he made a couple of really, really good saves. And his distribution is no worse than Henderson. You know, Henderson...
It's not better. He's a better shot stopper, Des, you think, Turner, than Navas and Henderson?
I don't think he's necessarily better than both, but I don't see...
As a shot stopper, like as just pure shot stopping.
David, I think he is.
I think he is.
He's much worse. Yeah. But what Henderson was getting beaten was long shots this time last year. So if we was all excited with Henderson because he was a fashionable name, you know, he was somebody coming in. Turner's not quite so fashionable, even though he's come from a big club. I think he's a fantastic shot stopper. I think what he's done for Forest is better than what Henderson had done to this point. His distribution is no worse. So I don't see... I was devastated when we didn't sign Henderson or re-sign him. But I don't see Turner as making our team any weaker than what we had at this point last season. I think over the season, Navas and Henderson might have proved to be better goalkeepers if they'd have played a full season each or that kind of thing. But I just think a special sort of mention, because at crucial times in big games, he's made some really good saves and his handling was spot on yesterday. There was a couple where they flashed them across the box and you think, if that comes out, they're going to tap it in. And he's got his hands on it. So I think he's done really, really well since he came in.
So who's your man of the match?
I know. I just said
waiting. Who's you waiting?
I'd go with Ellie. I'd say 6. You know, it feels like bang average, but it wasn't a bang average performance. But it was there was improvements that could be made in terms of how we take it all forward. Yet, you know, the faults aren't sort of unrepairable. You know, that the faults in the game, we know we can do better on any other given day.
100%. Right, before we go, as you know,
who was yours, Dor?
My man of the match. I'll say.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
Hudson-Odoi. Yeah, first 25 minutes is fantastic, and I like his going forward. I love it. That's what we've missed. So that, and I think I agree with Dave and Ellie. Sorry, Dave. I was going to say.
That's why I have a balanced point of view.
No, sorry. It's got to be 3-1. I know. You can't. You know the reason. Sorry, Dave, because you're all in Australia, so you can't hit me. So.
Oh, that's all right. No, I'll never hit you, Dor. You're too handsome I wouldn't dare touch that face.
Thank you. Right. So as you know, like I said, I think it's Thursday. 2 years. That Thursday is Steve Cooper's been here for 2 years. I can't believe it. Like I said, this time last year, me, Des, and Glenn did a podcast, and we got so excited about Steve Cooper being Nottingham Forest manager. And people in the comments, 2 years. This has been the best 2 years of being a Nottingham Forest fan. It has. Imagine we're talking about a World Cup player buying a Ivory beast, Hudson-Odoi,
criticising a £45 million player.
Yeah, it should be better. What are you talking about? That's right. That's right. It should be better. What are you talking about, Des?
This is mad. But
we've got problems with having too many international players going away for the African nation. That's a great problem.
It's 2 years after this. It's mad. But we'll start with you, Des. 2 years of being it's been a fantastic journey with Steve Cooper, hasn't it?
You just said there that me, you, and Glenn was excited. I'll level with you. I wasn't that excited when we appointed Steve Cooper. I did a lot of negative stuff from Swansea fans about how boring it was and this and that. But when he comes, it's just changed. He's changed my whole outlook on football. And again, I get accused of defending him too much at times. But it's because like you say, Dor, we've never, ever experienced anything like it. No disrespect to Dave. He obviously doesn't come to the stadium because of where he lives. Ellie is still very, very young. I've watched it. I've had a season ticket for 30 years, and I started at the end of Brian Clough's reign, and that was quite exciting, but I was a kid and I didn't get it. Then we had the promotions of Colin Moore and Pierre Van Hooijdonk and
Frank Clark.
And getting to Europe in '96, you know, and all those
Surely
things.
that was the days, though, wasn't it, Des? Which is so special, that third finishing team, and we were on top for a little bit.
That team was
electric.
But the feel around the club and the city was not the same. Do you know, the football then was the best football. Do you know, the Sheffield Wednesday 7-1 and Tottenham 4-1, Lars Bohinen chipping them in from wherever he wanted. Do you know, my favourite player of all time at Forest, even though he went to Derby in the end. But the football was amazing. I won't say it's necessarily the best football, but as an experience to go to the match, to enjoy the noise in the stadium, and to be on this ride, you know, I do let Steve Cooper off sometimes for some of the mistakes I feel that's made, because I feel he's earned it. I feel he's dragged the club from oblivion. If they'd not appointed Cooper, we'd still be sat somewhere at the bottom of the champ, probably in League One again. And yes, I take everything the owners have done for the club. They've been absolutely amazing. But would they have had that same interest if we'd have got relegated again? So I think I mentioned earlier, Steve Cooper ran into Brennan Johnson. You know, they both needed each other. It was like the perfect storm came together. They weren't the only ones that got us promoted, but they were the big players in that whole thing. And I think that what we've seen and the way he adapts things and changes things, and he admits it, you know, he's as honest as the day is long, which you don't get in the Premier League. Most managers bullshit the way through it. You know, Rafa Benitez loses a game at Newcastle and he's telling you it was this, that, and the other. You know, Cooper admits it, and sometimes I think he admits too much because then everyone piles in. But I like that, you know, and I like the fact he's cajoled everybody in the stadium and the club. And I've never experienced it. There's guys in Nottingham saying they watch the European Cup winning team and they've never experienced the City ground like it. So in terms of team, it's not the best team we've ever had. Hopefully we're getting up there. People are now talking here about the best squad we've ever had. Yeah. Might be getting to that, you know, because squads weren't so big then. Squads were a little bit smaller and you were thinner on the ground. But I think the 2 years is just, people have taken it for granted, and they'll look back when we're bottom of the Premier League or in the Championship.
We will never be bottom of the Premier League again, Des.
Football what goes around comes around, you know, and that's just the nature of football. So I don't want us to be there. I'm hoping the sky's the limit and we never go back there again. But if we are, it won't be until then that everybody realises what this 2 years has been. You know, losing and relegation and angst and upset and anger, you know, is all part of football. But we haven't had that much of it. And I think the special occasions, you know, even League Cup games against Wolves, which we didn't expect too much from, and we had a fantastic night. The promotion night, the playoff semi-final night, Wembley, you know, beating Liverpool, you know, going 2-0 up at Old Trafford, even though it didn't transpire. You just got to bottle those up sometimes. And when you get a little bit older and more realistic, you understand that that's why you're a football fan at the end of the day.
I just thought Des is the oldest person on this panel. People just thought I'd get it out of the way. Ellie, 2 years of, and again, I don't want to mention that thing what Ellie said. People will know what Ellie said. At that time, we did a podcast. It was me, Foxy, and Steve Curry. and said, "Oh, Forest will get promoted." What was it? It was October, wasn't it? October, December.
I said, I said 4th place. We were rock bottom of the table, and guess where we finished? 4th. Went up. I was right.
She was right. Has it been your best 2 years, LA, as a Forest fan?
Oh my God! Well, I'm 20. So what have I seen? Nothing other than this.
Just heartache.
Before this, the best game of my life that I always looked back on. The best game for me was when we avoided relegation on goal difference playing Ipswich, and that was relegation to League One. So
League One.
I was literally like, that was the story. Like I gave to my friends, like, guess, how cool is this? The fact that we're in the Premier League is just like a foreign concept to me. I'm 20. I've not really got to see us ever be good, if we're honest. And like 2 years ago today, we were rock bottom of the Championship. It was really like, I think we had 1 point in 7 games. It was something outrageous.
And we should have lost. We should have lost a derby on that time as well.
It was just, I mean, at least we got the point. But it was rough, to say the least. The crowds were not like, we weren't selling out or anywhere near. People weren't travelling away as much. And then
I was.
I was. I don't know what you were doing to yourself. That's just, why you did that to yourself.
Stoke away. Remember the bad memories.
That was so good. But like the memories that I've got, like all my best stories are all people are so sick of me. But like, getting to go to Wembley was just so cool. I didn't think I'd see the day, if I'm honest. And I know, like, to all you pensioners and old folk, you're like, yeah,
You're calling Des a pensioner.
I'm calling you a pensioner as well. You're all old.
As well?
Yeah.
What?
But like, I didn't see it. You got to see when we were good. This is, look at us now. And I just take the mick out of all my friends who's, like, oh, who's Forest? Yeah, look at us now, beating Chelsea away.
You could support Rochdale.
I've always not been happy. Before this, I'd always be fuming with my dad that he made me a Forest fan. And I was always like,
but look what you're getting out of it now. You could support one of the teams that wins all the time. But I would argue that day beating Gibbs-White and staying up on goal difference. What a terrific day. And that's the highs and lows of being a Forest fan.
It was brilliant. I met Chris Cohen, one of my absolute heroes in the Forest.
I ran to Zach Clough on the pitch. In hindsight, I should have run to Matty Cash, but I was like 13 and Zach Clough was the nearest person. So off I ran, and I'll never forget. And that was my first home game that I could, remember that I was like not an infant. And
what about you, David? Last but not least, as a Forest fan, it's been a crazy 2 years. I remember the first trip. The first time on the show. Great show, you fantastic. But what's it like, David? Like,
well,
being a Forest fan, Premier League.
Well, it's just so different.
Steve Cooper.
Well, there's just so many things that are different about it. And so back to the point of, I remember when we got relegated. And so I used to buy a publication called British Soccer Week in Australia that would pull together all of the news of British soccer. And Forest would receive 2 paragraphs, and I would pay $4.50 to read on just Forest. And that's all I could get for about 10 years on Nottingham Forest. It's just absolutely brutal. And then, we were selling players and stuff. And so in terms of supporting Forest now, what makes it a lot easier and actually the YouTube ecosystem and being able to connect it to the, like the Dore and Des carry on. Like, I haven't spent that much time with Des, but I feel I'm giving Des a hard time just because of the, the ability to connect with
David,
with the
carry
club.
On. Keep doing it. Someone needs to take over.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm following the lead. But certainly, look, Forest are now front and center. They don't quite get as much coverage as we would like. But it's just so brilliant to be able to see, Michael Owen talking about, the Nottingham Forest players for 20 minutes post-match. And, he's like one of the top pundits and one of the all-time like legend English footballers. And so it is just so much better now that we've got this. And so the gift that Nottingham Forest has given us just keeps giving. And then in terms of Cooper, I would just call out, actually, I was watching his press conference just now before I came on the podcast. He has clearly improved in the last 3 months, just in terms of dealing with the press. And so what I quite like about him for us is that we're a club that's improving and he continues to improve with us. And just the way he was kind of dealing with the questions and kind of tempering the expectations on Hudson-Odoi and the goal, and he's just brilliant. And so, the upside that we get from him, and it's just such a bummer that sometimes he's going to be under pressure, and we're going to have these Morgan Gibbs-White expectations on Steve Cooper at times as well. But yeah, what a great gift. And so you can't say anything but thank you, Steve Cooper. Thank you, Mr. Marinakis, and just thank you to the whole Nottingham Forest ecosystem. Let's go. Manchester City, bring it on. 3-0, baby. Why not?
Okay, right. Before we do go and get everyone's score prediction for the Man City game, Des, what do you think score prediction will be?
We'll get beat 3-0.
No.
Dora, I think it's time you might need to activate the boot function on the podcast and remove Des from the podcast.
I told you, pragmatism. You guys can say we're going to win, and I tell you what I hope we are. But have you seen what City have done in the last 2 games? They've got 1-0 down on the stroke of half time and scored.
But we have Taiwo.
First minute.
We've got Taiwo.
We've got Taiwo.
And
I just look forward to celebrating.
Right now, I don't care. We've got the best striker in the Premier League. I said it.
I'm going with Davey's comment here. 3-0 is an improvement on last year.
No, that is true. That is true.
We stood there last year and we watched our team get torn apart.
Do you think you don't even think we can score, Des?
Well, possibly. But I think genuinely, if you look at yesterday's performance, if you look at the fact there wasn't many goals in the Chelsea game, it's going to be really, really tough. Just being realistic and joking aside, last year we went there and we watched the team absolutely destroy us, and they was out of this world. We all stood there with our jaw down here at what they were doing.
Yeah, it was.
If they'd left Haaland on that pitch, it would have been 9-0, not 6-0. But Haaland went off after 54 minutes. And it was just an absolute masterclass. And I know that's a different season, a different time, and we're much better for it. Hopefully, we can nick one and somehow find the chance to hold on. But unfortunately, with City, as I just mentioned there, their last 2 games, including tonight, they've conceded just before half-time. Before the 47th minute, they've scored and then gone on to win 3-1. So, who knows? It could be 3-1. Football...
1-0.
Football for these crazy, mad, fantastic moments, don't we? And we're nobody celebrating it as much as me, but we've got to be realistic as well. At least one of us has, anyway.
David, what's your score?
2-1. Taiwo and Chris Wood both to get goals. Chris Wood, late goal from a Montiel cross off the bench.
Oh, David, wake up. I know you've had a good season.
Maybe not Montiel, but certainly 2-1. I think Awoniyi and Wood will be the scorers. I don't think Montiel will actually get picked against Manchester City.
What was yours, Ellie?
I'm going to say 2-1 as well. I mean, I can't see us not conceding, but we could score a couple.
We could score? I want to score.
A couple. I think we'll surprise them. They're not ready for Ryan Yates and Joe Worrell to terrify them. They need some of that Forest, Nottingham local heart to freak them out. They're not used to atmospheres and passion. They're all just pure talent and money. I think we could get them 2-1.
Where's Felipe? Does he play?
Does Felipe play? I hope he does.
I hope he does too. I think if he plays,
I think he's going to be in the formation to what we played on against Burnley. But you never know. Right. Been a great show. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to you, Ellie, David, and Des. David, people in chat, David's all the way in Australia. What time is it, David?
Now 7:40 a.m. So I will get on my work day.
He's off to work while everyone's going to sleep. But I do appreciate.
I'm not going to go back and watch this podcast 3 times, Dor, while you guys are asleep. Just so I could work out how I could have given Des a bit more of a hard time, and then we should have a review show of the review show.
You are. Every time Des is on, you're coming on, David. Because it's just less hassle for me.
Love you, Des.
No. Just don't give Des time, because Kate, they're married now. She'll give you a punch in the face. So don't say nothing to Des. Don't say nothing to him. Right, it's been a great show, people. Thank you, everyone. That took the part to come on the show. Make sure everyone go follow Des on Instagram and Twitter. Ellie on as well on Twitter and Instagram, and David's on. What are you on, David? Are you on Instagram?
I'm on nothing. I'm just socially clean, Dor.
You see, social clean. So make sure
the only thing I'm on is your channel, Dor.
Yeah. Des, before you go, Des, what do you do on
Morgan Gibbs-White's case? That's what he is.
Before we go to Des, what do you do on Twitter and Instagram before and after the game so people can follow?
So I just do little match previews and match reports. I'm not I get a lot of stick from it, as you know. The reality is it was something Dor put me onto to and I got paid to do it. I got paid £200 a month. I don't mind admitting that, right? To go and watch Forest and talk about it, even if I can't talk about it as articulate, I can't be as articulate as some. You know, I like to talk about it, and if someone's going to give me that money to follow my team, I'm going to do it. That stopped, right? And I decided I quite liked it, so I'm still doing it. And then what's the best thing about it? And I want to get this out there because this is quite important to me. Some guy messaged me who was blind and says he really, really gets so much from those reports, you know, because there's nothing.
That's amazing.
There's nothing quite like it on Twitter because it's an instant match reaction from a fan. I say things wrong. I get the wrong score half the time. People love to remind me, you know, because I'm saying it in the heat of the moment as I saw it. And then someone will go, no, Danilo was crap. Morgan Gibbs-White was crap. You said all this wrong. So what? I like doing it. You know, give it a follow, give it a watch. It's a minute before, a minute after, and it just helps people stay informed. Like the guy who's blind, who obviously uses Twitter in a braille form, but gets to hear someone's opinion instantly after the match on Forest.
That's brilliant.
Funny you mentioned that, Des. You get $200. I've just been made an offer from Morgan Gibbs-White. I've been paid $500 not to report or appear on any future shows.
I don't get what I'm saying now. The only reason I mention the money, I wouldn't be so vulgar, is I don't get the money anymore. I do it because I like to do it. And then when somebody tells you that, why would you not do it anymore? Do you know what I mean?
That's amazing. That's amazing. Nice. Well done, Des, for that. Well done.
Yeah, so follow me. It's up there on that.
People follow. Go and follow Des on Twitter.
No hiding faces. No eye press. Low blocks. None of that nonsense. You know.
Yes. Yeah, David. No low block talk. I bloody hate it.
I who grew up in the 80s. It was all about counter attack and getting in the face and 4-4-2. You know, proper football.
Bring back the 4-4-2.
As well, you LA, I don't want this low block talking. You and your dad pass it on to your dad as well. I don't want no low block football. I hate it. It's just what is in our term? Just defending deep, isn't it? That's what it is.
I think it is defending deep.
Defending deep. Just say defending deep.
I think it's parking the bus, isn't it?
Parking the bus. Stop saying
parking the bus. Parking the bus.
It's annoying. Right.
I'm just glad I can understand you guys this week.
Yeah. People are back. I might do a show on Thursday about Steve Cooper 2 years as Nottingham Forest manager. If he's still here, you never know. He might get sacked tomorrow. You never know. Just saying that you never know. Football's crazy these days. But
should do a show Dor on the
because I've still not met him. Everyone always says to me, "Have you met Steve Cooper?" Kay's met him twice.
I know Rad's met him twice. I know Rad's met him yesterday.
How is this even possible? Do you know, I'm not a fanboy who chases people around, but I
just look forward to meeting Steve Cooper before you do, Des. That will be a win.
Challenge.
Hey, Dor, you should do a we should do a chat on the balance of the squad now. I actually think I thought it was telling. I think we have too many defenders. I think we have one too many, but we can after a few matches we'll work that out.
Montiel.
Well, maybe not Montiel, but maybe or Montiel. Yeah, his English is not so good yet, so he can't understand this show either.
Right, people, I think it's time to go. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Des, Elliot, David. Thank you for everyone in the chat for taking the time. If you do a massive favor for me, please do hit the like button. Subscribe if you're new to my DoreOnTour channel. And I will see you Thursday. Get a new panel, talk about Steve Cooper, 2 years, and Forest latest stuff. Been a good show. David, next time, more ammo on Des, because I've enjoyed that. But yeah, people in the chat, thank you very much. Peace and love. Up the Forest.
Come on, you Red.